Hi, I'm Tim from Love It Sales and Lettings, and this is your Property Unlocked series. Today we're going to be talking about two things, gazumping and gazundering. So what is gazumping? You may have heard the phrase before, but not be too clear on what it actually is. Gazumping is when you have an offer accepted on a property you want to buy. The seller accepts your offer. You start the conveyancing process, so you instruct a solicitor. You may also pay for local searches, start to go down the route of getting a mortgage. And then the seller decides to accept a higher offer from somebody else. Which leaves you gazumped. Unfortunately, there's very little you can do to protect yourself against the losses or the costs that you may have already incurred, such as solicitors' fees, and it can be a very frustrating process. In England, until contracts are exchanged, unfortunately, the agreement that you have between purchaser and seller isn't legally binding until that happens, and until that point, anybody can withdraw from the transaction. There are, however, a number of things that you can do to try to reduce the risk of gazumping when buying a property. The first thing you can do when you're offering on the property is speak to the estate agent that you're purchasing through and ask them if they can withdraw the property from the market once the offer is accepted. Therefore, there's no more eyeballs on the property, and hopefully it's not going to entice any more offers. Another good tip is you could try to build a positive relationship with your seller and with the agents involved. Try to keep them informed of your progress in terms of how the conveyancing is going. From the outset, try to manage the seller's expectations in terms of timescales and timeframes and keep them updated as you progress. You can also offer with a view to exchanging as quick as you can. You can also try to set a limit on it. So a lot of people will say we want to try to exchange within 28 days or within 2 months. Therefore, again, it just manages the timescales between the vendor and the buyer. Finally, one thing that you can also do is ask the seller if they're happy to go into a pre-contract arrangement where both parties put in a nominal sum, and if one of the parties happens to pull out at any point, the other party can take those funds away. With these pre-contract deposit arrangements, there's also usually a timescale involved, so you can set a time limit to get from offer to completion as well. So gazundering is the opposite of gazumping. So if you're a house seller and you've agreed a deal on your property, you may well get further down the track with solicitors, getting close to exchange, and then just before exchange, the buyer may well change their offer and say, actually, we're not going to give you £200,000, we actually want to offer you £180,000 for your property. You're that far down the track at that point and probably invested some funds in solicitors' fees as well, that as the seller, you may think, crikey, what shall I do? Shall I go ahead and accept this offer? Because if I don't, then I have to remarket the property again, start all over again. The dilemma is obviously whether or not to accept the lower offer, and then you have that shortfall of income, or do you wait it out and hope that you can find another buyer at that price? But again, in a slower market, or even any kind of market really, you could well be waiting a long time to get back to the position to get close to exchange of contracts that you were in the first place. So there are three main things that you can do to reduce the risks of gazundering. So the first thing is timing. Timing's everything. Set out your expectations and timeframes at the beginning. The quicker you can move, and the quicker you can move close to exchange of contracts, then the better. It gives less chance, less time for the buyer to potentially change their minds on their offer. Secondly is know the market when you're selling your property in the first place. By making sure that your property is priced correctly, you're negating the potential impact of a buyer coming back to you with a reduced offer further down the track. And lastly, be realistic and honest and open about any defects that your property might have. A buyer may come back with a lower offer off the back of a mortgage survey or a survey they've had done that flags up certain issues. So they might say, oh, there's a few holes in the roof will need to be replaced in a few years' time, therefore I'd like to take £5,000 or £10,000 off my offer. If you're open and honest up front, then this can minimise the risk of gazundering in this position. If you'd like to know more about gazumping, gazundering, or anything related to property, please give us a call on 01480 218 200, or you can come and pop into our office on the Market Square in St Neots.